I'm telling this story from my dining table, the same table where I used to serve Sunday pot roast and sweet tea, thinking my family was whole. My hands shake a little now, not just from age, but from remembering. Folks say a mother's love is blind. I learned that lesson the hard way. My name is Evelyn Carter. I'm 73 years old, and for most of my life, I believed my son could do no wrong. After my husband passed, God rest his soul, it was just me rattling around a 4-bedroom house filled with memories. 42 years of marriage gone just like that. The quiet was loud, too loud. That's when my son Mark started calling more, checking in, sounding sweet. "Mom, you shouldn't be alone," he said. "Why don't you come stay with us for a while?" I thought it was love. Turns out it was timing. Mark and his wife Linda welcomed me with smiles big enough to fool a fool. Linda hugged me tight, called me Mama, fixed my plate before I even sat down. She insisted on cooking all my meals. "You worked hard your whole life," she'd say. "Let me take care of you now." I should have listened to that tiny voice in my gut. But when you're old and tired, kindness feels like oxygen. A few weeks after I moved in, I started feeling off, dizzy, weak. My stomach twisted up for no reason. Some days I couldn't even finish my coffee. Linda laughed it off. "It's just age, Mama," she said. "Bodies slow down." Then came the doctor visits, blood tests, confused looks. One doctor whispered, "Something's not right." But nobody had answers. And every time I came home from the clinic, Linda handed me a warm bowl of soup and those same pills she swore were vitamins. That's when Mark started asking questions. Not about my health. About my money. He asked about my life insurance, my savings, my house, real casual-like. "Just planning ahead, Mom," he said, "in case anything happens." Anything. That word stuck with me. One night, I overheard them whispering in the kitchen. My name slipped out of Linda's mouth, followed by numbers. Big numbers. I leaned against the wall, heart pounding like it was trying to warn me. That was the night I realized something ugly was growing right inside my own family. And the worst part, I still didn't know how far they were willing to go. I used to line those little pills up every morning like a good girl. Yellow one, white one, 2 tiny blue capsules. Linda would stand there with her arms crossed, smiling like a nurse in a TV commercial. "Gotta keep you strong, Mama," she'd say. Strong. Lord, if only she knew how weak I felt. Some days my hands trembled so bad I couldn't even hold my coffee mug. Other days I felt foggy, like my brain was wrapped in cotton. I'd forget words, forget where I put things. Once I forgot Mark's birthday, something I never did in my life. He laughed it off, but I saw something flash in his eyes. Not sadness, calculation. I started keeping a little notebook, old habit from my teaching days. I wrote down what I ate, what I felt, what pills I took. I didn't tell anyone, just me and that notebook. Then one afternoon, Linda slipped up. She went grocery shopping and left her purse on the kitchen counter. I wasn't snooping at first, just looking for a pen. But her purse was wide open, and I saw a pharmacy bottle with no label. My name was written on it in her handwriting. That ain't normal. I opened it with shaking fingers. Inside were capsules I'd never seen before. No pharmacy logo, no prescription sticker, nothing. Just clear capsules with white powder. My heart dropped into my shoes. I Googled the imprint code on my phone from the pills she gave me. It didn't match any vitamin. Didn't match any prescription either. So I did something that still makes my stomach twist. The next day, I didn't take them. I poured them into a napkin and flushed them down the toilet. Then I pretended I swallowed them. And wouldn't you know it, within 3 days I felt clearer, stronger, less dizzy. My appetite came back. My head wasn't spinning like a carnival ride anymore. That's when the fear really hit. Because if those pills were making me sick, why would my own son's wife give them to me? I started watching them, listening, acting slow and confused on purpose. Old people learn to play dumb real good. One night I heard Mark say, "Is it working yet?" Linda whispered back, "It takes time, don't rush it, people get suspicious." People. Not me. People. That's when I knew it wasn't an accident. It wasn't love. It was a plan. And the plan had a timeline. I didn't sleep much after that conversation in the kitchen. My mind kept replaying Mark's voice. Is it working yet? Like a broken record. I kept thinking, working how? Making me sick, making me die. I needed proof, not feelings, not guesses. So I took one of those capsules Linda gave me and tucked it into my purse. The next morning, I told her I had a routine checkup. She barely looked up from her phone. Good, she said. Tell the doctor you feel tired. He'll probably adjust your meds. I wasn't on any meds. That alone told me everything. At the clinic, I asked the nurse if they could test the pill. She looked at me like I was being dramatic, but when I told her I felt poisoned, her eyes softened. She sent it to the lab, said it would take a couple days. Those were the longest 2 days of my life. When the doctor called me back in, he didn't smile, didn't joke. He shut the door and sat across from me real slow. Mrs. Carter, he said, who gave you this? I told him, my son's wife, my family. He rubbed his forehead, like he didn't even want to say the words. That capsule contains a sedative and a toxin that can cause organ damage over time. In small doses, it looks like aging. In larger doses, it can be fatal. Fatal. That word hit harder than my husband's funeral. He said it was the kind of thing people use to make someone weak, confused, dependent. The kind that wouldn't show up on normal blood work unless you knew what to look for. In other words, the perfect slow poison. I walked out of that office in a daze, sat in my car and cried so hard my chest hurt. I kept thinking of Mark as a little boy, holding my hand on his first day of school, crying because he didn't want to leave me. Now he was part of this. That night I didn't say a word at dinner. Linda served her chicken casserole like always. I pretended to eat, pretended to swallow those pills. But inside, something in me snapped. I started noticing little things. Mark asking about my will. Linda printing papers and quickly flipping them over when I walked in. Whispers stopping when I entered a room. They weren't just waiting for me to die. They were planning for it. And I realized something that chilled me to the bone. They thought I was too old, too confused, too weak to figure it out. They had no idea what I was about to do next. After the doctor told me the truth, I felt like I was living in a bad crime show, except this was my life, my blood, my own kid. I wanted to scream at Mark, shake him, ask him how he could do this to his own mama. But I didn't. I played the role they wanted. I started acting weaker on purpose, let my hands shake more, walked slower, forgot things on purpose. I'd stare off into space and pretend I didn't hear Linda talking to me. I even faked a little stumble in the hallway one afternoon. Mark caught my arm, but his face didn't look worried. It looked relieved. Relieved. That hurt worse than any pill. Linda doubled down. She started bringing me special teas, smoothies, and soups. Always insisted on making them herself. Always watched me drink them. I'd sip a little, then sneak the rest down the sink when she turned her back. I also started recording everything on my old phone. Conversations, whispers, her telling Mark, she's getting weaker, it won't be long now. Hearing that made my skin crawl. One night, I heard them in the living room after they thought I was asleep. I sat on the stairs, holding my breath. Mark said, the house is worth at least 400 grand. Her life insurance is another 200. Once it's done, we'll be set. Linda laughed softly. Old people die all the time. Nobody's gonna dig into this. Doctors already think she's just aging. I had to bite my hand to keep from gasping. They weren't just talking about money. They were talking about my life like it was a paycheck. The next morning, I called my lawyer from the bathroom and whispered like I was in a spy movie, told him everything. He nearly dropped the phone. He said, Evelyn, you need to be careful. People have gone to prison for less than this, but you need solid proof. Proof, that word kept ringing in my ears. So I decided to set a trap. I told Mark and Linda I wanted to update my will, said I was thinking of leaving everything to them because they took such good care of me. Their eyes lit up like slot machines. Linda hugged me and said, "Your family, Mama. We'd never let anything happen to you." I almost laughed. Almost. Because they had no idea the trap was already closing in on them. The day I told them I was updating my will, Mark nearly tripped over himself rushing to the lawyer's office with me. Linda wore her Sunday best like it was a holiday. Folks usually dress like that for weddings or funerals. Guess she was planning for the second. I made a big show of being tired, confused, and emotional. Told the lawyer, right in front of them, that I wanted to keep it simple and leave everything to my son and his wife. I even let my voice crack a little, like I was already halfway gone. Mark squeezed my hand. "You don't have to worry about anything, Mom. We got you." Yeah, I knew exactly what he meant by that. What they didn't know was that the lawyer and I had already talked in private. That document they saw me sign, it wasn't what they thought. It was a decoy, part of a bigger plan to protect myself and catch them. On the way home, Linda stopped for coffee. I stayed in the car and pretended to nap. They thought I was out cold. Big mistake. I heard Mark say, "Once this is done, we just gotta keep the schedule steady. Doctor said her organs are already weak." Linda whispered back, "I've been careful, low doses, slow and quiet. Nobody questions an old woman fatting away." Fatting away. That phrase hit like ice water down my spine. She went on, "We should bump it up a little after the will's finalized, just enough to speed things up." Mark hesitated for a second, just 1 second. Then he said, "Yeah, I can't keep pretending forever. It's creepy watching her decline." Creepy. Watching his own mother die was creepy to him. I sat there, eyes closed, tears leaking down my cheeks, recording every word. That night, I barely slept. I kept thinking about all the birthdays, all the scraped knees, all the nights I stayed up sewing his Halloween costumes. And now he was planning my death like it was a project at work. But I also felt something else rising in me. Not fear. Anger. Cold, clear, focused anger. I started moving money around. Quietly. Changed beneficiaries, locked down accounts, set up alerts, and I told my lawyer to prepare something that would hit them like a truck when the time came. Meanwhile, I kept pretending to get sicker. Linda started watching me like a hawk, counting my pills, checking my cups, making sure I swallowed. She'd sit across from me at breakfast, eyes locked on my throat. One morning, she smiled and said, "You're looking paler today. Must be the medication finally kicking in." I smiled back and said, "I guess so, sweetheart." Inside, I was counting the days. Because soon, they were gonna find out I wasn't the one fatting away. And when they did, it was gonna be too late for them. By this point, I felt like I was living 2 lives. In front of Mark and Linda, I was the fragile old mama, fatting day by day. Behind their backs, I was working with a lawyer, a detective, and a nurse who believed me when nobody else did. My lawyer connected me with a local detective who specialized in elder abuse cases. He came to see me in plain clothes, just a regular guy stopping by for coffee. Mark didn't even blink. Linda offered him lemonade. If only she knew. I had weeks of recordings by then, Mark talking about the house, Linda talking about upping the dosage, both of them acting like my death was just a business deal. The detective listened to every word with a stone-cold face. "This is serious," he said. "This is attempted homicide." Homicide. That word felt unreal, like it belonged in a courtroom drama, not my living room. They asked me to keep playing along, to act normal, to keep collecting proof. I was terrified, but I agreed. At 73, I didn't have much to lose, except my dignity and my life. One afternoon, Linda handed me a new bottle of pills. "Doctor switched brands," she said. "These are stronger." Stronger. I nodded and pretended to swallow them. Later, I handed them straight to the detective in a plastic bag. A week later, he called me. "These are toxic, not prescribed, not legal, enough over time to shut down your kidneys." My kidneys. So that's why I'd been feeling like I was dying from the inside out. I started noticing changes in Mark too. He became impatient, snappy. He'd sigh loud when I walked slow. He once muttered, "This is taking forever," when he thought I didn't hear. Forever. I wanted to scream, "I'm your mother, not a payday." Linda, on the other hand, got sweet. Too sweet. She'd rub my shoulders, call me Angel, and tell friends how blessed she was to take care of her elderly mother-in-law. She posted pictures of me on Facebook with captions like, "Cherishing every moment with Mama." People commented, "You're such a saint." If they only knew. One night, I heard her on the phone with her sister. "Once she's gone, we're moving to Florida. Beach house, baby. This old place is just a stepping stone." Stepping stone. That's what I was to her, a stepping stone. The detective told me they were building a case. They needed them to slip up just a little more. A clear confession. A mistake. Something undeniable. So I decided to give them a reason to talk. I told Mark and Linda the doctor said I might not make it through the year. I cried in front of them, said I was scared. Linda hugged me, but I felt her hands trembling, not with sadness, but excitement. That night, they whispered in the kitchen again. And this time, they didn't know every word was being recorded by a device hidden under the table. That little recorder under the dining table was the best and worst thing I ever owned. Best because it caught the truth. Worst because I had to hear it. That night, I told Mark and Linda the doctor said my heart was weak and I might not last long. I made my voice shaky, wiped my eyes, played the scared old lady part real good. They hugged me, told me to stay strong, said God had a plan. Then they thought I went to bed. I didn't. I sat in my room, lights off, listening through the monitor app on my phone. My heart was pounding so loud I thought they'd hear it. Linda spoke first. "Well, that sped things up. If she goes naturally, we don't even have to push it." Mark sighed. "I don't want to wait. I'm tired of pretending I care. Every day she's here feels like babysitting." Babysitting. I swallowed hard. Linda laughed softly. "Just keep the doses steady. If she crashes, it'll look like heart failure. Old people drop all the time. Nobody questions it." Then Mark said something that broke something deep inside me. "I never wanted to take care of her anyway. Dad left me all the pressure. She's just always been in the way." In the way. I had stayed up late sewing his school projects. I worked double shifts to send him to college. I skipped vacations so he could have braces and a car. And now I was in the way. Linda said, "Once she's gone, we're free. Money, house, no responsibilities, just us." Mark replied, "Yeah, it'll be worth it." Worth it. My own son thought my death would be worth it. I sat on my bed, shaking, tears soaking my pillow, but I didn't make a sound. Part of me wanted to run downstairs and scream. Part of me wanted to hug him like when he was 5 years old and afraid of thunderstorms. But that boy was gone. In his place was a stranger who saw me as an obstacle. The detective listened to the recording the next day. He didn't blink. "This is enough," he said. "This is intent. This is conspiracy." They told me to stay calm, to act normal for just a little longer. They were planning the arrest. They wanted to catch them with the pills, the documents, everything. That night at dinner, Linda served me my soup and smiled sweetly. "You're my favorite person in this house, Mama," she said. I smiled back, because I knew this would be one of the last dinners we'd ever share as a family. And they still had no idea what was coming. The morning the police came, Linda was making pancakes like it was any other day. Mark was scrolling on his phone, complaining about gas prices. I sat at the table, hands folded, pretending to be tired. Then the doorbell rang. Mark frowned. "Who's that this early?" I already knew. 2 officers stood on the porch, a man and a woman, calm, polite, serious. "Mark Carter," the man asked. "We need to speak with you and Linda inside." Linda's smile froze like a cracked mirror. They stepped into the living room, and the detective I'd been working with walked in behind them. He gave me a small nod. My son's face went pale. They started laying it out. The recordings, the pills, the lab results, the altered will documents, the messages, the plan, the motive. Linda started crying. Mark started yelling. "This is crazy. She's confused. She's old. She doesn't know what she's saying." I looked him straight in the eyes. "I know exactly what I'm saying, son." The female officer took out the handcuffs. The metal clicked shut around Linda's wrists first. She screamed, begged, said she loved me, said she was just trying to help. Mark tried to push past them. They cuffed him too. He looked at me one last time. Not with love. Not with regret. With anger. Like I'd ruined his life. They walked them out of the house I paid for, past the neighbors who waved at them every Sunday. The sirens weren't loud. They didn't need to be. Shame is louder than sirens. Later, the detective told me they were charged with attempted murder, elder abuse, and fraud. He said cases like mine don't always get justice. He said I was lucky. Lucky. That word tasted strange. I sat alone in that quiet house again. Same dining table, same chair, same coffee cup, but my family was gone. People ask me if I hate my son. I don't. I grieve him. The boy he used to be died long before he tried to kill me. I sold the house, moved to a small place by the coast. I garden. I drink coffee on the porch. I talk to other seniors about protecting themselves. I tell them to trust their instincts. Because sometimes the people who say, "I love you, Mama," are the same ones counting the days until you're gone. And if I hadn't listened to that tiny voice in my gut, I wouldn't be here telling you this story.